What is a statistic that sounds insane but is 100% true? There's about 90 million acres of land dedicated to growing corn. This is like covering the entire state of Montana in cornfields. About 40% of the corn is grown to be turned into ethanol to add to fuel. Another 40% is dedicated just to livestock feed. Only 2% is grown for direct human consumption. The beach in Jacksonville, Florida is farther west than all of the South American mainland. Boston is west of Santiago, Chile. The northern tip of Brazil is closer to Canada than it is to the southern tip of Brazil. Maine is the closest state to Africa. The southern tip of Canada is south of the northern edge of California. There's a nerve that runs from the brain to the larynx. The distance is a few inches, but because it loops under the heart, it's over a foot long. In giraffes, to connect the brain to the larynx, which is still just a few inches apart, is actually 15 feet long. Just one indoor tanning session increases the risk of developing melanoma by 20%. Starting indoor tanning before the age of 35 spikes your risk of melanoma by 75%. Motorcyclists account for 0.75% of vehicle lane miles traveled in the U.S., but 14% of roadway fatalities. There's also a pedestrian fatally struck by a vehicle every 7 minutes on average in the U.S. There are over 40,000 traffic fatalities in the U.S. each year. It's like an entire town getting wiped out. Also, about half of the automobile deaths are people who weren't wearing a seatbelt. Yet, 92% of people wear seatbelts. So, there's a pretty easy way to cut your risk of dying in an accident by a massive amount. Wear a seatbelt. During World War I, the introduction of the new British Army helmet reported injuries went up by something like 5,000%. The Army was furious and spent weeks going over the statistics before calling the designer and engineer and asked what sort of incompetent and catastrophic design could possibly be causing all these injuries. It was explained to them that every soldier injured while wearing the new helmet would have previously died if wearing the old one. Lies, damned lies statistics. Over 70% of all antibiotic used globally is for farmed animals. It was only 40% in the 90s when the World Health Organization called it the greatest threat to humanity as it would inevitably lead to an antibiotic resistance. Over 45,000 Americans die every year due to antibiotic resistance. That's 15 times the death of 9/11 every year due to something we were warned about 30 years ago. If you think the meat and dairy industry doesn't have paid astroturfers, just check the replies here with the anti-science propaganda. Antibiotic free just means it spent the last 14 days without antibiotic before harvest, thus has none left in it. You want no antibiotics ever on the label? Regulate language. I hate how deceptive labeling is. This is like grass-fed and grass-finished. You assume the grass-fed means the animal ate majority grass. Nope, it means they ate grass at least once in their life. Grass-finished is what you think grass-fed means. If the world's richest men lost 99.999 of their wealth, they would still be richer than 99% of the global population. 1 in 12 men have some form of color blindness. I will quote a famous comedian. 1/6 of the population on the earth are Chinese. So if you have 5 kids and are expecting a 6th one, it is very likely that it will be a Chinese one. Experiencing a single non-fatal strangulation incident by an intimate partner makes them 750% more likely to kill you in the future. That is not a typo. 54% of American adults have a 6th grade or below reading level. In a room of 23 people, there's a 50% chance that 2 of them share a birthday. Much smarter people than me have proven this to be true, And obviously, I believe them, and the evidence points towards it. But, like, come on. There's just no way. Is there? Why no? It's because there are way more than 23 chances for a match. There are actually 394 chances. For the first person, there are 23 chances. For the second person, there are 22 chances. For the third person, there are 21 chances. And so on. Edit. Man, this caused a lot of drama. My bad. Yes, I should have started at 22 instead of 23. That backyard drownings are the leading cause of death in children under 5. Edit. Wasn't expecting my comment to blow up, but I should have clarified that I'm in the United States. Correct stat is drowning is leading to cause death in the US, ages 1 through 4. This one scared me so much when my kids were small. We had a pool. I read somewhere to do the tag in out system, and we always do it no matter what was happening. Basically, one person assigned to watch the pool, their kids in the pool. It is their job until they tag another parent. And then it is their job until they tag out. The idea that there are a ton of people somehow will see something is wrong, lots of times no one sees anything. Also, anyone that has a water hazard and small children should have a multi-tiered system to keep the kids away from. Locks on doors, chime on door, fence around the pool, and possibly a water splash alarm. And teach your kids to float on their backs ASAP. Kids as young as a year can learn to float onto their backs and float until someone can come get them. I was a lifeguard at the local Y in high school. We had a nice setup with the indoor pool with a kiddie pool and hot tub. Once on a random Sunday, there was a family who come to the pool, about 6 adults with a maybe 2-year-old child. They sit around the kiddie pool, feet in the water, and play for a while. I'm watching all the people in the big pool and one lone lane swimmer. I then see a kiddo walking away from the kiddie pool and laser focus on him. In the feeling of time slowing down, he walks to the handicap ramp, steps off right into the big pool, into 3 feet of water. I blow my whistle, jump in, and hoist him out before he even had time to register that he had gone underwater. Until I turned to all the adults in the kiddie pool, they didn't even realize that the kid had gotten away from them, let alone could have drowned. I am so not the fun parent when it comes to pools. I tell my kids not to run. I don't care if the other kids do. You don't. Not dive in head first in shallow water. Force them to properly swim and train to tread water. We do also play though. I usually leave that up to their dad to help out with. With me, we do lots of swimming races and swimming away from the sea monster. In the past 20 years, extreme poverty in the world has halved. 80% of the world's children are vaccinated, and 80% also have access to electricity. To add to this, infant and maternal mortality rates have halved in that time. Global life expectancy has grown by 6 years. Global youth literacy rates have risen by 9%. The number of people lacking access to electricity has shrunk from 1.2 billion to 600 million. For the world as a whole, including the billions living in impoverished countries whose voices don't get heard on Reddit, the world has never been a safer, healthier, and more prosperous place. Sometimes, when it feels like everything is going wrong in the world, it can be helpful to remember this fact and also to remember that there are many noble people working hard to make the world a better place. And pretty much everyone on Reddit is extremely lucky compared to the average citizen of the world or the average human throughout our 250,000 year history. This is not a reason to ignore our problems today, but rather a chance to recognize how far we've come and how far we can go from here if we keep fighting and working hard. I love it. I love that. That is so beautiful and positive. I love that people have this much access to electricity now. Like, people are eating, people are being able to read, and just good as a whole. And I love that. That is such an amazing thing. And that's why I want to leave off on this energy because gang, am I right? But anyways, y'all, thank y'all if y'all made it to the end. I appreciate y'all so much. Y'all have a good rest of y'all day and God bless.